When we talk about our early hominid ancestors, images of primitive beings might come to mind. However, these distant relatives of ours had their own unique ways of exploring altered states of consciousness long before modern humans graced the earth. When you think of prehistoric humans, images of cavemen and cave paintings might come to mind. But did you ever wonder what these ancient folks were doing for fun? It turns out, our prehistoric ancestors were not as Stone Age as we might think. They had their own ways of getting high, long before the invention of smartphones and Netflix. Let us embark on a journey back in time to explore the world of prehistoric humans and hominid ancestors and their adventurous encounters with mind-altering substances. Our journey begins millions of years ago with the first hominid species. These early hominids had access to various natural resources that would eventually become the building blocks of human consciousness exploration. Prehistoric humans lived in a world teeming with natural resources, and they were no strangers to experimenting with various plants, fungi, and even animals to alter their consciousness. Here's a glimpse into the kinds of substances they had access to. Psychoactive plants. Even early hominids had a keen understanding of their environment. They discovered various plants with psychoactive properties, such as hallucinogenic mushrooms and roots, and began experimenting with them. Prehistoric humans were surrounded by a treasure trove of psychoactive plants. They dabbled with everything from hallucinogenic mushrooms, like Amanita muscaria, to the mind-expanding San Pedro cactus. These plants were often found in their local environments, making them easily accessible. Berries and fruits. Before the dawn of agriculture, our ancestors gathered wild fruits and berries. Some of these, like certain berries and fermented fruits, possessed natural alcoholic properties. Prehistoric humans discovered that certain berries and fruits could induce altered states of consciousness. They likely stumbled upon these effects accidentally and began incorporating them into their rituals. Animal parts. Believe it or not, prehistoric humans also got creative with animal parts. Some tribes chewed on the potent glands of certain toads, like the Colorado River toad, to experience powerful psychedelic trips. Others used animal bones and antlers to craft smoking pipes for inhaling herbal concoctions. Resinous extracts. Some early humans found that by scraping the resin from trees like pine or fir and heating it, they could produce psychoactive fumes. This practice could have led to their very own version of ancient vape sessions, effects and coping mechanisms. Now that we know what prehistoric humans were experimenting with, let's explore the effects of these substances and how they dealt with them. Hallucinations and mystical experiences. Hallucinogenic substances often induced vivid visual and auditory hallucinations. These experiences likely played a role in the development of spiritual and shamanic practices. Shamans, considered intermediaries between the human and spirit worlds, emerged as key figures in prehistoric societies. Social bonding. Many of these substances were consumed in group settings. This fostered a sense of community and belonging among tribes. Sharing altered states of consciousness may have deepened social connections and played a role in early human cooperation. Just like later human societies, early hominid groups may have used these substances in communal settings. Sharing altered states could have facilitated social bonding and cooperation among group members. Survival and adaptation. Some psychoactive plants, although not consumed for their mind-altering effects, possessed medicinal properties. Early hominids likely discovered these benefits and used certain plants to treat injuries and ailments, showcasing their early experimentation with natural medicine. Rituals and ceremonies. Prehistoric humans incorporated drug use into their rituals and ceremonies, which often revolved around hunting, agriculture, or seasonal changes. These events reinforced their connection with nature and their understanding of the world. As our ancestors evolved and developed more complex societies, the use of mind-altering substances likely became intertwined with rituals and ceremonies. These practices were a testament to their evolving culture and spirituality. Dealing with bad trips. Just like today, not every prehistoric drug experience was a good one. When things went awry, they likely relied on their community for support. The communal setting provided a safety net for those who found themselves in distress during their journeys. Healing and medicinal use. Some substances were not only for recreation but also had medicinal properties. Prehistoric humans may have used certain plants and fungi to treat ailments and injuries, leading to the development of early forms of herbal medicine. Cultural significance. These mind-altering experiences left an indelible mark on prehistoric cultures. Cave paintings and ancient artifacts suggest that their encounters with drugs played a central role in their art and symbolism, influencing the myths and legends that shaped their societies. The evolution of drug use. As we journey further through time, the story of drug use among hominid ancestors becomes even more intricate. As time passed, drug use in prehistoric societies evolved. It's fascinating to see how these early experiments with mind-altering substances paved the way for the development of culture and civilization as we know it. Homo erectus. With the emergence of Homo erectus around 1.9 million years ago, hominids developed the ability to control fire. This revolutionary discovery allowed them to cook food, including psychoactive plants, which could have altered the effects and led to new culinary traditions. Neanderthals. The Neanderthals, our closest relatives, are believed to have used medicinal plants for their healing properties. Their knowledge of these plants underscores the early development of herbal medicine. Homo sapiens. As Homo sapiens appeared on the scene, our ancestors took drug use to a new level. They began cultivating psychoactive plants and developing more sophisticated methods of consumption. This marked the beginning of a journey that would eventually lead to modern drug use and its cultural significance. Shamanism. The role of the shaman became more defined and specialized. These spiritual leaders guided their communities through the mystical realms, interpreting the messages received during altered states of consciousness. Agriculture. The advent of agriculture allowed prehistoric humans to cultivate psychoactive plants more systematically. This led to the development of rituals and ceremonies closely tied to the agricultural calendar. Trade networks. As humans began to trade with neighboring tribes and cultures, the exchange of psychoactive substances became more widespread. This not only enriched their experiences but also contributed to cultural diffusion. Writing and records. With the emergence of writing systems, civilizations could document their experiences with drugs more effectively. Ancient texts from cultures like the Sumerians and Egyptians provide insights into their use of substances for both religious and medicinal purposes. Control and regulation. As societies became more complex, they also began to regulate drug use. Some substances were reserved for religious or elite purposes, while others were accessible to the general population. Prehistoric humans weren't just about hunting and gathering, they had their own version of a good time, too. Their encounters with mind-altering substances were not just for recreation, they played a significant role in shaping their cultures, spirituality, and social bonds. While their methods and substances may seem primitive by today's standards, they were pioneers in exploring the boundaries of human consciousness. Our exploration into the world of hominid ancestors and their encounters with mind-altering substances reveals a fascinating tapestry of human history. From the first hominid species to the dawn of Homo sapiens, the desire to explore altered states of consciousness has been a continuous thread in our evolutionary story. As we look back through time, we see that our ancient relatives were not so different from us. They, too, sought to understand the mysteries of their world and the depths of their own consciousness. Their experiments with nature's gifts paved the way for the development of culture, spirituality, and, ultimately, the modern world. So, the next time you raise a glass or partake in recreational activities, remember that you're following in the footsteps of a long line of curious and adventurous beings who journeyed through time to understand themselves and the world around them. In the grand tapestry of human history, the threads of drug use and altered states of consciousness are woven deeply. From the humble beginnings of our hominid ancestors experimenting with mushrooms and berries to the elaborate rituals of ancient civilizations, the desire